and welcome back to our live stream. So excited to get started with everybody today. We are here every Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. PST. Today we're going to be talking about what is the lifestyle of someone in tech. Because I know people are wondering if it's remote work or if it's in office, and it definitely can vary. So we have our creators from different backgrounds and different experiences going to join us today and hear a little bit more about what their lifestyle looks like in different jobs and so forth. So if you have any questions about what their lifestyle looks like of somebody in tech, you're absolutely welcome to throw them in the chat. And again, we're here every week at Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. PST, which is super exciting. So we're going to start inviting some of our creators here to join today and get into this conversation. It's actually so super interesting just to hear like what they do in their day and how their job experience and lifestyle have changed over the past couple years or possible decades. Hi, Dom. How you doing?
Hi, Olivia. Doing amazing. Yourself?
Good. So I realized on our last live stream, my audio kind of sounds weird because I'm set up facing my computer. So can you hear me okay?
Now it's all good. Yeah, I'll say something if it won't work well, but yeah, for now it's really good.
Cool. Definitely can hear you from my side. I was just noticing when I go to save these live streams to post to our YouTube channel, my voice
Hey
sounds
guys,
wondering. Hi, Edwise. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. Awesome. Ziad, welcome.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Really good. It's a great Wednesday morning. So snowy here. I hope it's where you guys are. Dom, are you still Mexico?
Yep.
Very
Still Mexico, so no snow for me. Really hot, like 30 degrees, humid. So yeah, like a real summer.
Oh, I was there right now. That sounds lovely. It's so warm. Missing the warm weather. I can't wait for spring. Everybody kind of feels that way now, especially in February. So I was just telling everybody that we're jumping into our topic today of what is the lifestyle of someone in tech. So we'll just get right into it and get started. I'm really excited to hear about everybody's backgrounds, what everybody's lifestyle kind of looks like over different jobs and different. So we'll jump right into it. So let's start with Dom on this. So what are some of the struggles that you had with being like jumping into tech? Like you have, I'm trying to rephrase my question. Sorry, I just read something different. Do you have, let me just like restart here. Is there anything you can tell us about your lifestyle currently in tech and what your job kind of looks like? And then we'll go later into questions about like previous jobs. But currently, what does your lifestyle day to day kind of look like?
Sure. So I can kind of like start with that like old story that I was coding for like 7 years, something like that, and then I started growing on my socials and everything. And like 2 months ago, I actually quit my job just to like be full time content creator and creator of digital products. So my life right now, I would say it's really flexible, both in terms like location, time zones, or basically anything. Because I am a digital nomad, that's why I'm in Mexico now, just going around, meeting people and everything. And yeah, my day to day life. So it's hard to say because I often change locations and so many things are happening that there's no kind of like a typical day. But I would say that most, most common day, if I had to pick something, is like I wake up in the morning, then I just like do some breathing exercises, meditate, then I work. I love, yeah, starting my day with first like breathing exercises and then working. And then like during the day, I usually go out somewhere, like explore stuff and everything. And then in the evening, around 6, 7 p.m., I just come back and work again, like till I go to sleep. I usually have a workout somewhere in between, and of course eat and all those things. So that would be kind of like maybe the most common day. But yeah, it's really flexible.
Awesome. That was a great review of kind of what your lifestyle looks like right now. I feel like that's really helpful to hear from different people. Dweez, what does your lifestyle kind of look like right now in your day-to-day life?
Well, I have a question for Dom first before I answer. So, considering you're a wizard, when do you practice all of the spells? Like, do you do that in your sleep or how does it go?
Good.
Well, in the evening, of course, because it's dark. So spells are better in the evening, and of course in the sleep. You have to do something in the sleep, like just lying down for 8 hours. That's not efficient.
Yeah.
That was
Okay. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. So, yeah, how does it look like for me? Okay, so as Dom said, there's like the flexibility that you can have to travel. I personally am working from home right now, considering we're creators in tech. So I just work from home. I have just my laptop and a different monitor. All the work is done on the monitor. I just think it's easier if you're working on two screens. But yeah, I just work from home. A typical day would be I wake up, I drink tea, I then go get a quick workout in. I'm back home around 9:30 and I start working around 10. Usually I write my scripts in the morning for the videos that I want to make for that day. And in the afternoon I film usually. And then yeah, that's how it goes for me. I work about 4 hours in a day, sometimes more, it depends. But it's pretty flexible. Like, for example, whenever I want to travel, I just go do that. I prepare the videos in advance and then I edit on the road and I just deliver them. So I think it's super flexible and I really enjoy that.
awesome. That's
Yeah.
4 hours a day. That is like prime. I feel like everybody would love to work 4 hours a day. I feel like that's like perfect. Um,
Yeah.
but too, that's lovely. But yeah, that's so great. That is awesome. That's so exciting. I would love to work 4 hours a day. I'm working like 12, right?
Yeah, on a good day, yeah, but I think it would be like between 5 and 6. That's more realistic. Between 5 and 6, yeah, I
Definitely.
exaggerated a bit.
That's four. That's great. Those are really very exciting. Zia, tell us a little bit more about what your job currently looks like right now as somebody in tech.
Yeah, I mean, my lifestyle is a little bit different than these two because I work for a tech company. So I work remote. So usually I'll wake up and in the mornings usually is when there's like some kind of meeting or another over Zoom, whether it's like a stand up. So, like, that's where everybody in the team kind of hops on a call, talks about what they've been working on, and any like blockers, any issues, things like that. And that'll be like really quick, kind of like round the room, 15-20 minute meeting or something. And then after that, I think like the 11 a.m. or 10 a.m. to like 3 p.m. is like kind of my time. So usually I'll have maybe like 3 or 4 hours of that part of the day like actually dedicated to sitting down in front of the computer and hard like coding or writing documentation or just like actual work. So that'll be a few hours. And like, since it is like a remote kind of job, then an hour or so of that will be like either going to get food or like going to the gym or something like that, just to kind of like get out of the house, like make sure that I'm socializing with people, stuff like that. And that'll be like about until 3 p.m. or so. After 3, there's gonna be probably some kind of like meeting as well. And it'll differ like from time to time. Sometimes it'll be like a bi-weekly check-in kind of meeting with a manager, or it'll be like like a strategy meeting, like for the team, like what are we working on, what are we doing, that sort of thing. And it really depends, like the day of the week, but generally there will be like some kind of meeting in that time. And then the really cool part about the work that I do is that most of the team is like on the East Coast. So that's kind of like one of the perks of working at a remote tech companies. A lot of people are across different time zones, so it won't be like a 9 to 5. Like, I'll probably usually finish around like 3:30 to 4 or so, because everybody's like East Coast time, so it's like 7 p.m. by them. I'm Pacific time zone. So like I'll be done around then, and that's when I can usually have like a lot more focused times to either like get stuff done without any interruption, or I'll work on like just like other other than work things like social media stuff, or I'll like read or something like that. Sometimes I'll be working on a side project or something, but usually like I'll try to like get some friends together, hang out after work, that sort of thing. But it's all really nice because working remote means that there's like no commute, there's no like there's no you can kind of like just shut off the computer, and like be done with the day, which is really nice. But yeah, that's my typical Monday through Friday. I would say similar to Dwee's actually, like the actual work time will probably be like 5 to 6 hours, like including meetings and all that, and 2 hours is just kind of like either zoning out or doing something else. Like that's kind of one of the perks of being remote. And also, I want to show you guys.
Yeah.
This is another cool perk. Let me see if I can flip the camera.
First time we've ever flipped a camera during a live. Wow.
You also get like this really cool monitor setup that they give you, which is really cool. So that's where I spend 4 to 6 hours of my day. Doing things in front of a 3 monitor setup. But yeah, I would say that's pretty much it. Like weekends are a lot more chill. They're like, zero work pretty much. So I'll try to get out of the house and, like hang out with friends, stuff like that. I don't do as much traveling as these two, but I want to eventually down the road.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. For people asking in the chat, the live stream topic today is what is the lifestyle of someone in tech? I feel like with those 3 monitors, I would always lose my mouse because I only have 2 monitors and that's so that's probably a struggle, but it's really nice to see them on all 3 because you have as many tabs open as you want and not get lost, and that's awesome. So my next question, and I'm kind of going a little bit off script here with these next couple of questions, but what was your guys' jobs and lifestyle what did it look like, in the beginning of your career in tech? So very first jobs, maybe like early on in your tech journey, like could have been like a regular 9 to 5, maybe you were always remote work. I'm just curious to know what that looks like compared to now. So we'll go back down the list. We'll start with Dom on this one. So what was your initial lifestyle kind of look like when you first got into tech?
Sure. So actually, my lifestyle looked like first I was doing like some student jobs, kind of like internships, and that wasn't full time. So that was like 2 times per week, 3 times per week. So I'll skip actually that and like go directly to my first job, which was after I graduated, and that was like 5 years ago. And that was like a typical regular 9 to 5. So I needed to go to the office, and yeah, I did some commuting. Back then I was living in Croatia, so I was working for a Croatian company. And it started around, I think, 9:30, although it was pretty flexible. So even some people arrived like at 10, 11. So it was flexible. Like one guy, he was even sometimes coming around like 1 or 2 p.m. and then staying till like 10 p.m. So yeah, it was pretty flexible with that. But yeah, I usually came around 9, finished around 5. I needed to track my time. I needed to every time I came into the office, I needed to like press the machine with my fob just to like kind of register that I'm inside. And when I was leaving, I kind of needed to register that I'm leaving. So yeah, that was my first job. Definitely like office based. The great thing is that was learned a lot of that. It's not just about coding and engineering, but it's about my life in general, what I want on that job. So yeah, it's always like every job is a good experience. If it's a terrible job, then it's a learning experience and it motivates you and you learn a lot from it. If it's a great job, of course, it's a great job to learn from it. So every job you need to watch as a learning experience. But yeah, basically typical 9 to 5. A good thing is that I was living pretty close to that company. So it just took me like 5 minutes with a bike to get there, which was a plus. So commuting wasn't that terrible for me. But still, if you compare like working in the office versus working from home, there's like, yeah, just working from home is way, way more comfortable because, yeah, you don't need to waste time on commuting because usually people commute more than 5 minutes. So yeah, you don't need to waste time for that. And you're just at home all day. So you don't have that feeling like, oh, after a job I came home and now I'm really like tired. You just like work from home, and after you're done, like you want to go out because you're full of energy. You want to go somewhere because you're home for the whole day. But yeah, it's not nice to see that progression, how it progressed, like from a typical job to like more flexible environments, more remote environments, and now literally just like co- complete freedom if something like that is possible.
Definitely. It's cool to see that transition from like your first job to where you are now, and like you worked so hard at it to get to this position where you can be able to work from home and be flexible. I know COVID had a little bit to do with a couple like work from home things, or gave people a couple more opportunities, but that's awesome to hear from. And I work from home too, and it's definitely super nice to be close to your fridge during the day and be able to cook like a warm meal instead of pack your lunch every day. I know I hated that when I was in an office too. Awesome. So we have a couple. I see you guys' messages in the chat. We'll make sure to get to them. I promise. They're really, really good questions. I just want to continue and ask the other two the same question. So, Dweez, what was your first kind of tech job look like and lifestyle look like compared to what it is?
Well, my first tech job that I got was being a content creator. But before that, I can tell what I was doing because I was still learning how to code back then. So I combined that with working. I worked as a private tutor part-time, and I did programming on the side. Like I had my job, and next to my job, I had the other job, which was like learning programming. That was on my own. I went working like 4 times a week, and the rest of the week I was writing code. And I also went to university. I was still at university as well. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then I realized, oh, wow, if I can learn code, maybe that's something I would like. It just seemed cool. So I just gave it a try. And it was really hard to do that, especially because you're fatigued and you want to also learn on the side. But I just would maybe a day, an hour every day in the morning. That's when I had the time to do it, and that's when I did it. And yeah, that was how it was for me pre-tech, let's say. After that, my first job in tech was as a creator, but I've been talking for a while now, so I think I can answer that another day.
Definitely, we'll come back to you on that because that's super interesting. But it's very cool to see like right out of university, you kind of just jumped into content creation as kind of your first job. So that's really cool. Like not a lot of people get that opportunity. So that is very neat. We'll definitely come back to that because I know a little bit more about that as well because that's just a very unique opportunity. Very cool, awesome. Zia, do you want to touch on this? Like, what was your first job like? Or are you still maybe? I don't think you're still in your first job. I think you've had a couple
I
since.
talk about internships, because like my internship experience is very different than my job right now. Um, this one's in person, and it was really cool because I live in like the Seattle kind of area, and the internship was in San Francisco in like the Bay Area, and it was really cool because they like paid for pretty much everything to go down there. Like they paid for it was a 3 month internship, so they paid for like 3 months of housing. They paid for the flight tickets down there, pretty much everything. And this was like an in-person job, similar to kind of what Dweez experienced. And what this company did, and like honestly, like what a lot of companies in the U.S. will do, is that they'll like really want to make you feel at home at the company, so you kind of like never want to leave. Like they give you so many perks in the office and stuff, which is pretty awesome. So like my typical day would literally be like I'd arrive pretty much whenever I wanted, as long as it wasn't like abnormal, you know. Like I think my average pull-in time was like 10:30 or something, which was totally fine. Like a lot of people would pull up at that time, and like 10:30, it's not even when I actually start working. No, it's when they would service like a buffet breakfast kind of thing. So like I would go like eat at 10:30. It was really good food. They had like a restaurant come in and cater like the buffet style thing. And you would just be like sitting with your coworkers, like, you know, forming relationships, all that kind of stuff. So you'd be connecting with people, which is really nice. So that was like the first like 30 minutes of my day. I would say like from 11 to kind of like 5-ish is like pretty similar to what I do right now. It's, you know, a couple hours of coding, maybe like a meeting or so somewhere sprinkled in there. But it would be in person, which was really nice because that means like if you had a question about something, if you wanted help with something, you can kind of just like turn around and ask a question. The office was like usually how it is right now. It's not like cubicles or like specific or everybody has one office or something. It's more of like this collaborative space. That's like the way that the offices are structured, which is really cool because then it's like you're sitting at tables similar to how you were in like school or something. So it's like if you want something, you have a question, you can like easily just turn to the person sitting next to you or in front of you and just like ask the question, and people would ask you questions as well, which was it made it really collaborative, which was awesome. And then in the office, they literally would serve like, 3 meals a day. I talked about the breakfast. They would also serve like lunch and dinner. So they literally make it so you don't want to leave. Like they put you in an environment where you're super comfortable, which is really cool. And at the same time, it's like the typical, they have snacks everywhere and drinks and stuff like that. So they would really make you feel at home, which is awesome. And similar to Dom, I lived like 5 minutes away, which was pretty cool. So it was like a 5 minute walk, literally. Like I would just kind of like cross 3 blocks or something, and I'd be home. So yeah, that was a really good experience. Like honestly, I think working in person has like a lot of perks. Like I kind of realized that after working remote now. Obviously, working remote comes with the flexibility, the ability to travel, all that kind of stuff. But I gotta say, and I think Dom's probably gonna agree with me on this. Like the amount of learning that you get, like by working really close with other people and like in person, is definitely still important. You get to like form a lot of really good connections, and you're also just like more. There's less. There is more pressure on you to actually get work done when you're in person, and there's like people around you. So I would say like even productivity wise, it was better, but I think both of them both have their perks. So I enjoyed my first experience. I enjoyed remote work right now. But yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, very cool. I totally agree. Like those big companies that all over TikTok too, like they really want you to stay. So they'll be like, "Hey, we have lunch provided for you."
Yeah. Olivia, I will now ask you a question. Like, how does your typical day look like?
My day, yeah,
Yeah.
let me answer that. I like I'm the social media manager for Practicum for everybody. Here I am learning about tech as we go from these amazing creators because I am not overly skilled in the tech area. I definitely should probably take a couple courses because it's very interesting. But my day goes talking to these creators a lot and organizing strategy for social media in general, which is really cool. But I've been working really long hours lately. I do work remote, which is awesome. I love my job. I think it's honestly the best job in the world. It's very cool, like to work with awesome creators like you guys and just like do something that I'm super passionate about. So that was a really good question, Louise. I like that.
Yeah, thank you for answering.
Definitely. Awesome. So we have a couple questions in the chat here that we're going to get to here. And feel free, we're trying to stay on the topic of what is the lifestyle of somebody in tech. So if you have questions about the lifestyle of somebody in tech, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Next week, we can definitely talk about like more about AI because I know that's up and coming in those trends, but we're going to try to stay on topic today. So one of the questions that I see in the chat that's a little bit more on topic for us is, would you recommend a big tech company or a startup for jobs? Does anybody want to jump in and kind of answer that?
I
Yeah.
I can do that. So I would say for your first job, it's better, in my opinion, to go to an already established company with established processes. So it doesn't need to be like a massive big tech company with tens of thousands of employees, but a good company or good agency with like 100 plus, 200 plus employees. That's a really good thing because they already have established processes. That means when you will come, you'll probably get a mentor. They will know like how to teach you things because they already done that with many other people, and they have like they're collecting knowledge over time, and you will absorb that knowledge. While startups can often be pretty chaotic, and startups usually hire a bit more experienced developers because they need you to work immediately. When you go to a bigger company, it's more established company, you can come knowing almost anything, and they will still teach you, and in a couple of months you will start making income from them, while startups can be a bit chaotic. So I would recommend go to an established company, learn as much as possible, focus on learning because salary doesn't matter here. Obviously it needs to be you need to have a salary and get a salary, but focus on learning, and then you will capitalize that knowledge and monetize that knowledge later. And after you got like enough knowledge, then you can join a startup where people will expect from you to apply that knowledge that you learned. And it's also going to be a cool experience. For me, for example, I worked for the first 3 years for like established, like quite big and great agencies where I learned tons of stuff. And then I joined a really cool startup, and it's just like different because it's chaotic. You do so many things, but you already know so many things. So you just apply knowledge. And since it's a startup, there's not so many people. You get like way higher privileges. So suddenly you interview people, you mentor people, and you do all these things like usually seniors and leads were doing in your previous company. But that's only because the company was massive and they already had those processes. So yeah, great to learn and then go to a startup and apply that later.
Definitely. Sorry, I was waiting for you to say something else at the end of that, but that was really good. That was a great overview. Does anybody else kind of want to weigh in on this? I completely agree with that. Especially like I've worked for a couple startups before too, and they do expect you to like jump in right away and like learn, know everything on top. And you usually wear more hats than you would in a bigger company, I would say. But does anybody else want to add into that, or does everybody kind of agree with what Dom said?
Yeah,
I agree with Dom.
I can kind of weigh in because like my first experience, I had a couple of different experiences, but like my very first internship that I mentioned earlier was like a startup, and then I kind of went to a bigger company and then back to startup. So like the startup field is nice because as you guys said, you get to wear a lot of different hats, but it is chaotic as kind of Dom mentioned. And the thing is like I kind of have like the opposite opinion from Dom, but I see like the pros and cons. The pro that I'm really focusing on is like when you first kind of like either graduated from college or a boot camp or whatever it is that you like wherever it is that you got your qualification from, you probably at that point have been like touching on a lot of different topics. Like for example, in college you'll study like operating systems, hardware, a little bit of databases, a little bit of this, like a lot of different topics, and you'll have like this like little bit of knowledge in a lot of different areas. But obviously, at that point, you won't have like working experience up until that point. And I think when the issue with a big company is that you're kind of gonna like go into a specific role that they hired you for, and you'll like sit in that role for a little bit. You like that'll be like the main focus. That's what they hired you for. So, for example, if you go work at like Google or Amazon, for example, these are like huge companies, but like the team that you're on and the role that you're in will probably have you focused on like one really specific area that you'll start to like develop deep knowledge in. But then, like the startup world, with my experience, like I got to really touch all areas of the stack as an engineer. Like, got to do a little bit of front end, a little bit of back end, a little bit of infrastructure, a little bit of everything, which was really nice because then, like, when I went to a bigger company, like even though the processes were already in place, as Dom said, like I knew like how these things kind of worked underneath the hood, and I felt like I got like a very much accelerated learning experience from working in a startup. So I'm not sure, like honestly, if it's better like to do one or the other first, but it's really important to get both experiences. Like, because I know people that have worked in big companies their entire lives, and other people have worked in startups their entire lives, and I don't think that's correct. Like, I think it's getting both experiences is really important because seeing things operate at huge, massive scale is just as important as seeing like how things kind of develop from the beginning and how those processes are formed. Especially if you want to eventually like do a startup or work at a very, very tiny company, it's really helpful to like see those experiences in action.
Definitely. That's honestly a really good overview. I would agree with that too. It's interesting really to hear from all the creators' perspectives on these things. But I would agree as well. Like try to get as much experience as you can from either a startup or both. But yeah, it's kind of up to you what you want to do. If you want to start at a startup or end at a startup, or maybe you're just a big company person, and that is a-okay as well. So those are all really great. I see we have another question in the chat, so we'll jump right into it. And I think Dom is good to answer this one, but interpret it how you will. I'm just going to read it as is. It kind of is a little bit confusing. So what do you do if your hobby is in front of the computer too, like gaming? Change your hobby.
Oh yeah, I can answer.
Yeah, feel free,
Or
please.
Yeah.
okay. So if you have a hobby and it's in front of the computer, I don't know, you you do design as a hobby, whatever, gaming, and you work from home, remote. I think that's what the question was. I think it's important for you to set boundaries for yourself, right? For example, you assign a room in the house where you only work in, and if you are not working in that room, I don't know, get two monitors. That's the only thing I can say in regards to solving this issue. You can then create clear boundaries and you don't feel like you're sitting at the same desk the whole day if you are doing stuff outside of working entertainment on the other in that same room. So I think it's important that you draw boundaries for yourself.
Definitely. Or Dom, I want to jump in on this. I know you kind of agree with Dweeze's point on this?
About hobbies, I mean, it's up to you. If you enjoy doing something in front of your screen, then do it. If not, then don't do it. But yeah, don't force yourself. Like if you enjoy gaming and you love like both coding and gaming, do it. Like why not? Like it's hard to force yourself to do some hobbies because then it won't be a hobby anymore. It'll just be like work. So it's up to you. If you're satisfied with your life, then okay, have those hobbies. But if you want to do something different with your life, then you'll need to use that time when you're not working. So if you're coding for 8 hours, then you'll need to spend those other 8 hours of day or 2 hours, 3 hours, no matter how much, doing something else. And gaming probably won't help you only if you want to become a professional gamer, then go into gaming. But if not, then yeah, pick some other things. But if you're satisfied with your life, there's nothing wrong in like coding and gaming for like hours or days. Yeah, I know people.
Definitely. Yeah, no, those are really good. I'm going to jump into another question that kind of piggybacks off this one. So, with all of you are working remotely right now, how do you manage your distractions at home? For example, I get caught up sometimes doing the dishes when I'm supposed to be working, distracting in the corner of my eye, and I'm like, well, I can just sneak away, and it usually only takes 5 minutes, but I know I could be using my time elsewhere. So do you guys ever get super distracted while working remotely, and how do you kind of deal with those, especially like if you have meetings or other items? Like I know well, if you're working, have them at home. Does anybody want to jump in? Maybe Zia,
Yeah, I
or yeah,
I can.
go first.
Yeah. No, I think if you feel, it, you gotta accept it. Okay, I'm going to sound like a guru right now. I'm not. But you just gotta accept how you feel. Like if you don't feel like doing anything and your brain just not want to cooperate, just accept it. Take half an hour off, go for a walk, do stuff, do other things that you would deem useful in that time, and try again 30 minutes. And if you still don't feel like working, accept it. I have found myself doing this a lot, and when I do get to work, I am so efficient. It's because, I don't know, I cannot explain it, but that's what works for me. Now, it doesn't work like that for everybody. The accepting it part, it's great if you can reach that point, but it doesn't work like that for everybody. As I answered earlier, that's why I gave that answer because I assumed that the person was talking about, yeah, I want to code and game at the same time. If you are in that situation that you get distracted because you game on that computer, I think that's why you should have two different
Yeah,
rooms in the house, one specifically for working. Like you can get a computer there, a whole different one that you don't like really use for gaming. It's for work purposes only. And the other one outside of that, you can do everything with it. I think it's important that there is like a physical boundary. If you can have it, have it. I don't have it, but it's just because I use my meditation methods to go through it. But if I could have like separate rooms with separate screens, I would definitely do it. It would make a huge difference.
Definitely. I do agree with that. It's really nice to separate kind of like don't work if you can, if it's possible for you to not work in the same room as your bed. Because I know like that's a psychology trigger. Like, because when you see your bed, you get tired and you want to go to sleep. So it's really good. I totally can separate those things. I'm going to ask the other two guys the same question, but I just wanted to give a quick thank you to everybody that's joined our live and that are asking these amazing questions in the chat and giving gifts to our creators. We have a gifting war every single time. On these live streams. So I see it looks like Ziad's in the lead right now. So if you like their answers or you want them to answer, feel free to shoot them over a gift. We're really excited to see kind of wins at the end of every live. It's really cool. Ziad or Dom, do you guys want to jump in on kind of this managing distractions at home, especially work remotely?
Yeah, like everything that you guys said definitely works for me. Like I used to have my computer like in the same room as my bedroom and it was terrible. Like I'd always kind of wake up like all groggy and like go to my go to my setup and it would be terrible, like I would be very not productive. So I ended up like moving my entire setup to like a completely different room and that kind of like separates things because then you wake up, you go wash your face, all that kind of stuff. And then like after you're kind of like done waking up, then you go downstairs and you start actually working. And yeah, the other thing that really works for me distraction wise is that I'm like a very organized person when it comes to like a calendar even. So like I use Google Calendar and I make sure to like set times aside, kind of like what Dwee said, like 30 minutes at some point in the day that like I know I'm not going to work in, and that will be like my either lunch break or take a walk or go talk to somebody, something like that. Because then when like for example it's 10 a.m. right now and today's like break for me will be like at 12, so like I know like from now until 12 like I will be working kind of like towards that like 12 p.m. break. So that really helps me because then like I know that I only have like 2 hours left to get like X, Y, and Z done. So that kind of helps me to like avoid getting distracted. So I make sure to not fall behind. And I'm like very, very detailed in the calendar on purpose. So I can like, feel bad every time I look at the calendar and it's like 12 p.m. and I still didn't get stuff done that I was supposed to get done at 11 or something. So that over time, that really forces you to be like very organized. And I think like the equivalent of that is that like a lot of people tell you that having like a routine or having habits is like really good for your brain, and that's kind of my equivalent for that is like setting a calendar, setting tasks that like every day at 9 a.m. I'm gonna do this, for example. So yeah, all of this stuff is like you said, Olivia, it's very like psychology driven. So yeah, like even though it might seem stupid, it's like, oh, like my desk can be beside my bed, like I can be focused, what's the actual difference? But honestly, like when you try these things out, like you'll see that it really does make a difference on like your mood and your efficiency and productivity. So if you haven't tried out all these like tips and tricks that you've probably seen, definitely like give it a shot, and you'll see a difference.
Definitely organized like that too, like sort of time blocking that I've been meaning to try out, where you just like block and you just work on that task and you don't get distracted.
Yeah.
Really good tips. Dom, do you want to jump in on this? I feel like you have a crazy busy schedule, even with like traveling and all these things. How do you manage distractions and like organize, I guess, your time? Because we're on that subject now.
Sure. So how do I manage my distractions? Well, there are two things I would mention around this. So first, you can just like remove all of your distractions. So move your phone to your other room, to the other room, like hide stuff from you, and just like be in front of the screen and work. Sometimes that doesn't work. So if you like can't work for hours, then Reese had a great suggestion, like just take a walk or do a workout or do something else, like just I don't know, do nothing for meditate or do anything for like some period of time, and then try to return back to work. But those are just like short term like actions you can do. Long term, I'm thinking like if you're constantly distracted, and if you're constantly distracted like chronically for weeks and months, maybe even years, then there's just a sign that you probably don't do what you should do, and that you should either like switch career, switch job, or do something else. I know it sounds a bit serious, but when you actually do something you like doing, then you don't even notice distractions. That was, for example, like a reason for me why I quit my job, because like I was noticing that I'm chronically not fulfilled with what I'm doing. I'm chronically like just not doing something that I love, and no matter how many like tricks I did to love my job more and to be more productive and to like be more motivated and to be more focused, I succeeded, but at its core, those were just tricks. And now when I actually do something I really love doing, I love content creation, like I have freedom, I work for myself, whatever distractions there are, I don't care about them, because I sometimes work like crazy for like 4 hours without stopping. I literally like, I'm sitting like, I'm editing videos and I need to go to the toilet. I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, I'm sweaty, but I don't care. Like I cannot, I'm glued to that keyboard, and like whatever's happening, if a bomb exploded out there, I would still be working. So yeah, it's just a good sign that maybe just need to don't settle down. Just switch that. If it bugs you for months, then it's not a great thing. There are like billion things in the world you can do. So it's just a sign.
Honestly,
More than philosophical approach.
definitely. That's really interesting. I do agree with that. I feel like long term, if you keep getting distracted, like in one of my previous jobs, for example, like I was like, you would dread to go to work in the morning. Not this job, but like other jobs, like, or like you're like at work and you're like, oh, I could be doing this and thinking of other things. But it's true, when you truly love your job, you're like very focused on it. So that's honestly a really good tip. I would still recommend, because I don't think anybody can focus for super long periods of time unless you're like really in the zone that day, and I've definitely had those, is definitely take those like mental health breaks, like meditate. I think that's a great example, or go for a walk. That's another one. Or if you do need to maybe jump on, play a game for 15 minutes, or for me, do the dishes for 15 minutes and just like time block up. So those are really good tips, you guys. Thank you for sharing. Awesome. Well, thanks for everybody for jumping in the chat and leaving these awesome comments. Like we can see all them, and these are awesome questions coming up. I just saw another one in the chat that I wanted to jump on and answer. Oh, it was it kind of relates to this topic of lifestyles in tech, because I guess with remote work this can be a little bit tricky to navigate. But the question was how to deal with a team member that does not contribute to work. Especially if they're, I guess, directly on your team and you're working remotely. I guess this is more of a structural conversation of like your job management style. But does anybody want to jump in and answer how to deal with a team member that does not contribute to work, or to manage that?
Maybe I can mention a couple of things about that. If somebody is like not working well or not performing well, I would say maybe in some cases you can actually say to them like directly, just like be open, say truth to them. But oftentimes that just don't work, and you can say the truth and you don't want to do that. And then I would suggest like just telling somebody, to your line manager or to your team lead, because to be honest, team leads or project managers or line managers should be doing performance reviews like every couple of months. And to that guy who is not performing well, if he's, or a girl, if they actually don't perform well, then line managers should tell them that, and that should be also like a sign that they need to improve. So yeah, I'm probably like telling the truth, but yeah, that just doesn't work in many cases. So yeah, just talk that to your line managers. If you don't have performance reviews, like anonymous performance reviews, then suggest that, because that's a great thing, not just for your teammates but also for yourself, because you will hear, you probably like you do many things well, but you just don't do some things well, but you're not even aware of that. And with anonymous reviews, you will become aware of that. They can sometimes be like pretty like how can I say, emotional, and they can damage you a bit, but still it's like a good thing because it's a positive. I wouldn't say positive, but it's a critical feedback that you need.
Definitely, it's frustrating when that happens. Anybody else want to chime in on this, or you guys want to jump to the next question?
I think I'm good. I definitely agree with what Dom said. Feedback is super critical.
Definitely. Our chat is going off here. I'm going to have to read through these in a second. So let's jump into another lifestyle about everybody's lifestyles in tech here. So have you guys faced any like, major challenges in working remotely or even working in an office space that you can share with somebody? Like maybe you guys have a story of a time that like, oh, this was super challenging in this lifestyle because like I know with certain jobs, for example, like people can work like you have to be on call. Like if you're a nurse or doctor, that can be really difficult to like keep your brain activated all the time. So is there anything like that for you guys that you found like really difficult navigating lifestyle of people in tech or I guess jobs in tech? Yeah, please. Do you guys want to jump in on this? Easy. Yeah, it's
I
like,
mean,
Yeah, I can go.
sure.
Um, like one of the challenges for me, yeah, we kind of touched it on it already, but for me, it's the fact that you have so much flexibility. It's great, and I love it. But also having flexibility means having a lot of responsibilities that you need to handle. And in the beginning, it was a challenge for me because I wasn't sure how I could structure my day. I wasn't sure what system I could work in. I think it's important for you to create a system that you are comfortable with. For example, if you have a specific amount of things you need to deliver, don't just wait at the very last day. Do a little bit every day, and at the end you deliver what you need to hand in. So I think making a structure, a system for me to work in was the most challenging thing I had to do up till now in regards to working remotely. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really honestly strong answer. I really like that, Dweez. Thank you for sharing that. Ziad or Dom, do you guys want to weigh in on this kind of challenges?
I mean, I could talk about definitely. I've noticed that like when working remote, just like energy levels are so much lower. Like when it comes to meetings and things like that. Like for example, like whenever we'd have meetings at an in-person company, it would be really fun. There'd be like lots of small talk before the actual meeting, and people would, you could see people's faces in real life, and it would just be like that kind of like human connection was there, which was really awesome. Over Zoom, obviously, like we said, much more flexible, and you can like hop on a call 1 minute before it starts instead of having to like get up and walk to a meeting room or something like that. But at the same time, like if you're in a meeting with 20 people, half of them are going to have their cameras off, and like half of them are going to be some of them might be like very low energy. They only talk like once during the meeting or something like that, and it's just like you get a lot less kind of connection. And at the same time, yeah, like as I said, there's lots of like small talk and things like that that happen in an office setting that you just don't get in like a remote setting as much, unless you like try to like force it. And that just means that like the people you work with are like closer to the coworker scale than they are to like just like a friend scale. Like I would say at my in-person job, I made a lot more like friends than I did at like a Zoom job, just because like we never got the chance to like talk about favorite foods or like favorite movies or something like that. And also like in a remote setting, there's not like the going out to lunch experiences or like the things like that I think really matter. But yeah, I think as we talked about earlier, there's like definitely pros and cons. You get lots of flexibility and all that, but that's just like a challenge that I kind of faced, is like you kind of have to go out of your way while working remote to make sure you're still getting like the socialization and human connection factors. But if you get that set up, then remote work is really nice.
Definitely. I know lots of people, I was reading an article the other day that people are wanting to move back to hybrid mode just because they're missing like that human interaction part, which I absolutely miss because sometimes I don't leave my house for a full week and I only see like my roommates. So I definitely miss that part, but it's also really nice with the flexibility as well. For those just joining the live too, I'm going to go back to Dom on this, but thank you so much for joining our live. We are here every Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. PST, so feel free to give us a follow. We have some amazing tips from our creators here that are all over our channel that you can kind of learn and watch from too. So Dom, do you want to weigh in on this? Any challenges that you kind of face? Dweez and Zia gave some really, really strong examples. Is there anything that you kind of want to add to this conversation?
Kind of like on that remote working challenges. I think that technology is currently not yet developed enough for remote working, but yet we still do remote working. So like all the meetings we have and all the communication, of course, that everything is far better to do in person than remote, but still like remote flexibility and just like no commuting and everything. Those pros are better than that communication, so we still do it. But in the future, when we'll have like metaverses, it's gonna be way way better. Like imagine just this live. Now you're looking us on phone screen, which is like just a tiny screen. But imagine if you just like put VR headset and we're like somewhere in like a beautiful place all together, and maybe it looks more real than actual reality. And imagine if we had meetings like that, if we had like the actual virtual whiteboard and we can draw on it, and so things like that will be like really really helpful for remote working and overall for communication. So yeah, kind of like that. And other thing with like remote working is just that like because of those things you kind of like can become disconnected to your team and everything. I noticed that myself, that just before like you feel way more connected to the team and to work, and when you're remote you're just like not connected that much. Who knows, maybe that's a good thing depending on the workspace, but yeah, it's just like I definitely experienced that.
Yeah, no, those are awesome. Those are really, really good examples of like some challenges that you guys faced in your kind of day to day with remote work, especially. I feel like that's everybody's kind of still navigating it. It's quite new. So those are really, really strong examples. Thank you guys for sharing. So we're gonna answer two more questions here, and all these questions in the chat that we see, we're writing them down. We're gonna answer them on the next live stream. Make sure you join for that one because there were some really cool questions about ChatGPT and AI, and then some about just jobs in general. So we'll make sure to answer those in our next live. So make sure you guys join for that one. Two more questions that I kind of see in the chat here is sorry, I'm just scrolling back to take a look at it here. It says, how do you know if you're job ready? I'm kind of having imposter syndrome. And I know imposter syndrome can definitely happen when you're not face-to-face, kind of these challenges that we're facing when we're not face-to-face with our coworkers, because maybe you can't really pick up on like if you're doing your job correctly, or maybe you're getting some, I don't know, maybe you're just communicating poorly over Zoom or anything. Does anybody want to kind of touch on like how you can kind of conquer imposter syndrome in a remote setting? I feel like this relates to our conversation that we're having today.
I can jump on that
Sure.
one. When are you ready? Well, you definitely need to go through some courses and build some small apps. When I say apps, it doesn't need to be like a huge app or anything. It's basically just like a bit of code that does something. So that's also an app. And then you are ready. You're probably ready earlier than you think, because you need to be aware that you will start learning properly when you actually get a job. Everything you're doing before, it's just a preparation. So the goal needs to be to get the job. Then you will spend 8 hours per day with great colleagues, with mentors, and then you will start learning properly. So I would suggest start applying as early as possible. Of course, don't start applying if you don't know anything about coding and haven't done any courses and haven't done anything, because that doesn't make a lot of sense. But if you're practicing even for like a couple of months, a few days a week, just start applying, because that's also going to be a great experience. You will see what people ask. Like you will just learn a lot from those interviews, and never take them personal. Just like take them as a learning experience, because every interview for you in the beginning, that's actually a learning experience. You might have to build an app. That's a great thing because you're learning. You might need to answer some questions on that interview. That's a cool thing too, because you're learning. Maybe you probably won't know some of the questions, and you will learn those things. So it's more like a quiz, like a game, and just watch that. Like as a game, start just create projects on the side, continue learning, start applying for the jobs, and that's it. Like you just need to find one company that's good for you, and that's it. Yeah, just try. And yep, I'm glad that you're satisfied with the answer.
Awesome. That was super great. Don't forget to follow our account too. Like we have some really, really great resources, and we want to make sure that you guys are kind of answering all your questions about tech because we have some really experienced creators in our chat here that can definitely answer all of them. And don't forget to take a look at our channel because we have some really great questions that have been answered from live streams on there from the past as well. So we're going to jump into our last question here. That was a great answer, by the way, Dom, and I really hope that helped kind of pave the path here. So this next question was, I'm just going to rephrase it a little bit to make it a little bit more positive on our end. Is how do you know if programming is right for you? I know some people in the chat are like, I don't know if this is like the right path for me to go. Like, you guys have any tips? Well, I'll make sure that everybody answers this question before we get out of here today. But how do you know if programming is like meant for you or the tech world in general? Go ahead, Ziad.
Yeah, I think I would say, like a big part of just tech and programming is like being very like if you're really curious about like how things work and like how like obviously like today there's new products that are coming out kind of like every day. Like if you use a phone, then you'll see like new apps coming out every day. Like there's the chat GPT stuff that's going around. Like there's just like all these new like innovations that come out, and I think like if any part of you is kind of curious about like how those things work or just like wanting to be a part of that innovation in some way, then like working in tech in general is good for you. um, and the cool part about that is like you don't really need to be like a programmer in particular. If you just want to be involved in the tech world, there's lots of like different roles out there. Like the biggest ones obviously software engineering, things like that. But there's so much that goes behind building those products. There's like the product managers, there's the data scientists, the data analysts. Like there's so many different roles that are there. And if you're just like interested in being a part of the innovation, then you should at least like start to see what you like by like reading up on these roles, reading up on like day in the life of this role in particular. Programming in particular might need a little bit more like a want to be like a problem solver. There's like people out there that say like you need to be good at math, you need to be like really good at like logic and things like that. And I wouldn't agree with the math part, but like you definitely need to be like a logical thinker, like very adept at problem solving, and also like you have to really like it. So because you're going to be spending like 8 hours a day in front of a computer pretty much. So it's like if you go out there and you try a online course, you try a boot camp or something like that, and you're not like really enjoying it, then I would say like no, like stay away from programming. You could still work in tech, but maybe look at other areas. But yeah, like it's because it's one of those like really draining roles, so you have to be like really enjoying what you're doing. So yeah, that'd be my advice, honestly. Like if you're semi interested in tech, like go give some of these things a try and see what you like. You'll only know by like experiencing.
Definitely. That was a strong answer. Wow. Dweez and Dom, do you guys want to weigh into this? Like, how do you know if like the tech world is kind of for you or programming is for you?
I can maybe answer something about that. How can you know if programming is for you? Well, of course, you need to try it out first, and then like see if you like it or not. If you programming, it's like really logical. It's like building Lego blocks, and it's like so I would say if you're like a more logical person, or you love maths, or like you just love playing with Lego blocks when you were a kid, and like similar examples, then programming might be for you, just because that's what programming is. It's just like building stuff in that virtual digital world, and it is really fun if you look at it like that. If you look at it like a game, you're just like solving some challenges, and in the end you build something, and when you build it, people actually use it, and it's useful for everyone. So I would say you need to try it out, but because it's so big, you might try a different part of programming in a different company. That happens to me. Like in my first company, like I didn't like the company that much. I didn't like the product that much. I didn't like the programming languages they were using that much. So I thought maybe I hate programming. Maybe that's not for me. But then I moved to a different company. I discovered JavaScript. I moved to a company with like amazing people, projects that I loved. Not that the company before was bad, but it just wasn't for me. And yeah, that second company, I really loved everything about coding and coding lifestyle. And I was like, yeah, now I really know coding is for me. So you just need to try. But if you like hate everything around it, if you hate technology too, then I don't know. And if you want to get into coding just because you think that the lifestyle is good or anything, then don't, because lifestyle won't be good for you because you will hate it. It will take you a long time to learn something, because if you don't like something, it will take way much effort to learn it. And yeah, just experiment and see.
Awesome. Takeaway: experiment. Luis, do you have any last things to kind of add to this before we close out for today?
Yeah, it's like Dom said, if you hate it and you're doing it for other reasons, you're gonna have a very hard time. I think for programming, if you're curious about it, if you love just technology, if you have interest in it, try it out and see. If you are finding yourself talking a lot about it and seeing coding videos on your TikTok, you know that you're pretty into the topic. So I'll leave it at that. You can
Honest,
decide for yourself if you love it or not.
great tip. That is so fair. Amazing. Well, thank you all for joining our live today. We really appreciate your support and your gifts to our creators. And we're here every Wednesday at 9:30 PST. We'll be answering all these questions on our live stream that were left in the chat today, and previous ones for other live streams. So make sure you jump in and join, and we'll answer more on that live. Creators, is there any last things you want to say before we leave for the week?
Thanks everyone. Thanks
Yeah,
for
thanks
your
everyone.
questions and gifts and attention and everything. Yeah, just thanks for everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and don't forget to follow if you haven't. See you next week.
awesome. Yeah, thanks everybody.
Fantastic. We'll see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.